I think for as long as I've been a photographer, people have told me that I need to niche my business in order to be successful. I kind of disagree with that, and I've made my business not following that advice. Hi, I'm Mackenzie Ryan. I am a photographer located in Nashville, Tennessee, and I do all kinds of photography. I do musicians and concerts and events, and I also do couples and weddings and families, kind of just whatever people want to hire me for, I've been doing. I have niched down a little bit from when I first began, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So let's go back in time to the beginning, and I'll explain a little bit of who I am and how I got to where I am. My name is Mackenzie Ryan, as I said before. Grew up in Los Angeles, California. I was around a lot of visual arts when I was younger. I would work as an extra on sets when I was in middle school throughout high school, and I just absolutely fell in love with not acting at all, but everything behind the scenes. And so I knew that I wanted to pursue that when I got older. I started doing video production classes when I was in high school, and that really gave me some hands-on experience. We did a lot of short films, and we learned how to use editing programs and have access to all of the equipment in high school. That was very important as well, because I did not have a camera back then, and I also didn't have the ability to download or purchase editing software, so it was great that those were available to me. I didn't go to a university, like a four-year college, when I first graduated from high school. I went to community college near my house, and luckily that community college offered a really great video production program, so I was able to get my associate's degree in video production. And being so close to LA, there were a lot of resources of people coming to the school and able to talk with us about their own experience in the industry, and so I feel like I got a lot of firsthand experience with the people that were there. After spending 2 years doing that and learning about kind of everything, especially with emphasis on video, I thought that I wanted to be a director, and I wanted to live in LA, and I thought that maybe I wanted to be in documentary film. With all that in mind, I applied to transfer to a four-year college at UC Berkeley, and they didn't have a film production major, but they did have a film theory major. So that's what I got into Berkeley for. However, I feel like throughout this entire process, not from my family at all, because my family was always extremely supportive, but I did hear from other people, you can't be successful with creative jobs. You have to go into the corporate world, you have to be safe, you have to climb that corporate ladder. I was like, this isn't something that I can do. And I loved it, and I had a passion for it, but I didn't know if I could sustain it. My senior year at Berkeley, I decided that I was not going to pursue film theory as my only major. I was going to double major in sociology and film theory so that I could have a backup and maybe go into that corporate world if I needed to. Fast forward a little bit more, I get my degree. I ended up moving to Nashville, Tennessee with my now husband, just because we visited and we just fell in love with everything in Nashville. I thought that I wanted to stay in California forever, but I realized that I really wanted to broaden my horizon and just try to live somewhere that wasn't California. We've been here ever since. It's been about 5 or 6 years now, and we just absolutely love it. The people here are amazing. The whole city is just so electric. There's so much to do. There's so much creativity here. But when I first moved here, I decided that I was going to be in the corporate world. So I got a job at Eventbrite, and then COVID happened and I got laid off. So I really only had that job for like 3 months before I got laid off. If I could get fired from a corporate job, then why not just pursue what I actually want to pursue? Like, no job is safe. So why not just do what I really want to do? And that's when I started working in photography. Had another job while I was starting out in photography. I got a job that was fully remote working for TikTok, and that was super fun. And I loved being a part of that as TikTok was growing in the United States. And then I worked there for 2 years while I was doing photography pretty much full time that entire time. And then I realized that I could fully transition out of having a day job, and I became full-time with photography, and that's where I've been ever since. So that is my story. And with that being said, I wanted to touch more on what this original video is even about, which is about niching down your photography business and why you don't necessarily need to. So going back to what I said in the very beginning, when you're first starting out in photography, you don't really have the opportunity to niche, especially if you're full-time. It's different if you are working a job and doing photography, then you're able to be a little bit more choosy. But if you are a full-time photographer, like I found myself in 2022, you really can't just say no to work. You have to make a living doing what you have decided to do. And so any work that comes by, you have to say yes. And so that's what I did. I had people reach out for literally anything, and I would say yeah, because I knew that I could do it, and I was able to figure out things that I liked and things that I didn't like. And I think that that's really important when you're first starting out in photography, to not niche yourself down, to not just say I'm going to be a photographer and I'm going to be a senior portrait photographer. I think it's important for you to test out a bunch of different things and see what you might or might not like. So maybe try to shoot an elopement, or maybe try to shoot a family, or maybe go and shoot a concert, and maybe you can see what you do like and what you don't like. And if you really don't like families, or you really don't like concerts, then you can go and shoot something else, and it just kind of all works together. But it's all about finding what you like and what you fully find yourself in, and what you find you have a passion for. That goes to my next point, which is that you don't necessarily need to fully niche down, that you don't need to be a specialist in one area. You can have multiple niches, and that is completely fine. And that's exactly what I'm doing. 3 years in, I realized that I don't want to niche down to one thing, because I realized that I love so many different aspects of photography, and I love having the different projects come my way. And I don't just want to only do one type of project forever in my career. I feel like I would get burnt out really easily, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to be as creative as I want to be. And so I decided not to niche down. Of course, there are things that I realized that I didn't like doing, like I don't like doing corporate events, but I have found out that the ones that I really like are weddings, couples, and musicians. So I decided that I wasn't going to niche down to any one thing. I was going to do those 3 things, 4 things if you count concert photography, because I don't know if that falls into musicians or not, but musicians like meaning creative portraits and concerts. I don't think that you should have to put aside things that you love so that you can focus on one thing because you think that's what's going to make you successful. I think that you can go multiple different routes and continue going on those routes, and you can be successful that way too. There are a lot more photographers out there not niching down than there were before, at least from what I'm hearing. And I see so much happiness and so much creativity in their work, and I love that they are able to fully let themselves be and just do the projects that they love and not have to worry about being a specialist in one category. Obviously, it's not bad if you decide that you only like doing weddings, then by all means just do weddings. But I'm just saying that if you really like doing weddings and also shooting concerts like me, then you definitely don't need to just choose one or the other. Ways that I decide to market myself, this makes it a little bit more difficult. I feel like I need to, it feels like I have multiple full-time jobs, even though I'm just a photographer. And my niche is humans. That is pretty much it. But marketing-wise, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And this is just because in some places I'm sure that it's fine for you to mix weddings and musicians all together. Like you can mix certain niches together and it's totally fine. Like families and weddings, you can mix together. Senior portraits, families and weddings, I feel like you can all mix together. Creative portraits and senior portraits, you can mix together. There's a lot of like overlap in these different niches. So when you're marketing yourself, you can totally feel free to just have it all on one Instagram or just in one Facebook or just under one name. And it makes sense because if people are getting senior portraits and they also want creative portraits for like musicians or for branding or for whatever, those 2 things match very well. Like the style of photography is very much similar. I find myself when I'm with 2 niches that absolutely don't make sense together, such as concert photography and weddings, I have to market myself differently to those 2 audiences. Not a lot of people do this, and you definitely don't have to, but I have 2 different Instagrams. One is specifically for weddings and one is specifically for musicians and concerts, and I just found that that's what works best for me. When it comes to senior portrait photography, which I also dabble in now and then, if somebody comes to me, then I usually put that on my concert photography Instagram. However, if a family comes to me and wants a photo shoot, then I usually put that on my wedding photography Instagram. So the way that I'm kind of dividing up these different niches depending on who is asking for what, and then I market that towards a specific audience based off of what overlap I find works. I think that being a specialist in something is great. And if you find the one thing that you like to do, then you should do it. Like if you really like doing headshots, you can become a specialist in headshots. And if you really like doing senior portraits, you can become a specialist in senior portraits, and that's totally fine. But I just don't think that we're in a day and age anymore where you need to pick one and just let it be that one. I think that it's totally fine if you decide that you like multiple things, and I think that you should pursue multiple things. And especially in the beginning, I think that you should pursue everything because you might surprise yourself. Because when I first started, I thought I would hate weddings. I thought that I only wanted to do musicians and concert photography, and that was it. And then I got the opportunity to shoot a wedding, and I took it, and I absolutely fell in love with it because the organization and the structure was so different from musician photography that I just had such a great time making the timelines and talking with the couples and getting to know everybody. So I think that you shouldn't stray away from different opportunities when you're first starting out, or even later if you like decide that maybe you've been doing senior portraits for 4 years and you want to branch out a little bit, then that's totally fine too. I think you should give yourself the permission to do what you want to do, and you shouldn't think too much about how other people are going to view it. And if somebody is telling you to niche down your business, then you don't have to. And you can give yourself permission to be creative and free, and that's totally fine. And I think that you'll find that having these different branches and these arms in different niches will, is that the right saying? Hands in different niches? I don't know. I think you'll find that doing all of these different things is actually going to make your photography better, because you are able to think differently and you're able to shoot differently and you're able to really branch out of your comfort zone and try all these different things. And maybe the angles or the lighting that you used for wedding photography portrait, you want to reuse for a musician. I think that there could be a lot of overlap with the way that you're creating. And I think doing things that you love and not trying to tell yourself you can't and that you have to niche down to be successful means that you can grow as a photographer even more. All I have to say about that, I just feel very passionate about not having to niche down if you don't want to. If you guys have any questions for me about my business, leave them in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Keep creating. Bye, guys.